Well, hello there. Welcome to our Friday demo. I am so happy you could join me. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a great week and ready for an interesting experiment using some really thin paints. So we're going to dive into it in a second. I'll show you the colors I'm using and I'll talk about the technique and what we're going to be doing here in a second. But first, welcome Carla and Pat and Lee have joined us. Fantastic. It's great to see you. So what we're going to be doing today is something I don't think I've tried before. Maybe I have, but I just can't remember. We're going to be doing a ring pour or a straight pour. They're both basically the same thing with some really thin paints. Now normally I use thicker paints for both a straight pour and a ring pour to keep those rings nice and distinct and separated. And you usually get fewer cells with thicker paints, but we're going to be trying out some really thin paints. I've got some leftover paints and I mixed up some other colors, very thin, my number 5 consistency, which is a very thin, no mound consistency. So we're going to see what happens. I think what we're going to get is a lot of bleeding and blending of our rings from our straight pour, but I'm excited to find out. So before we get started, well, we've got some more people that have joined us. Fantastic. But let's jump over, take a look at the colors I'll be using, and then we'll dive into the technique. So here we go. I'm going to flip on over here. I've got an 11 by 14 canvas set up. Since this is kind of an experiment, I like to use smaller canvases when I'm not quite sure what's going to happen, and it uses less paint, but it's a good way to judge and test things out. So we've got 11 by 14. I've got my spinner, so we might spin this thing out as well. We'll see how it goes, but we've got the option. So up here I've got some white paint. This is some just regular paint for a Dutch pour I did a little while back. Just some 2 parts Floetrol, 1 part white, and then water to make it the really thin consistency. This is a mixture of phthalo blue from Master's Touch and black to get a really beautiful, deep kind of Prussian blue color, which we're going to be using as our darkest value in this painting. Right here we've got a metallic cobalt blue from Artist Loft. It's one of my favorites. I love this teal color. We've got a metallic blue from Artist Loft, another one of my favorites. And we've got a mixture of gold and bronze here. And you get this gorgeous caramely, a metallic caramely color, which I really quite like. So those are the colors we'll be using. I'll spread on a base coat. We'll layer our cup and pour out a straight pour with really thin paints. Maybe do a little spinning and see what happens. So let's go ahead and move our paints and get started. And again, normally I use thicker paints for my straight pours or ring pours. That would be my number 2. You could use the number 1, 2, or 3 consistency. Those are the thicker consistencies. But the number 4 and 5 consistencies are the thinnest that I use for things like the Dutch pour, pearl pour, things like that. So I just forgot to squirt the back of my canvas, so I just did that quickly to kind of tighten it up. So what we're going to do, I'm going to just set this on my spinner here, get it prepared, and we're going to go ahead and mix our cup. I've got a cup here. This is a 7-ounce cup. Normally I'd use about 5 ounces of paint for a 11 by 14. I'm going to use slightly less, about 4 to 4.5 ounces of this really thin paint, because it's going to want to spread a lot thicker, or I mean a lot faster than the thicker paints, especially if we spin it. So I'm going to use a little bit less paint for this one. And so let's go ahead and layer this up and see what we get. So I'm going to start with some of our kind of metallic caramely color, and then I'm going to put a little, not white yet, but I want to put in our turquoise, a little bit of that, Then I'm going to put in our white. Just a small kind of amount of white. I want some light values as well as the other values in there. Some blue. And then our dark color. And we'll probably just go ahead and do the same thing. I might alter it just a touch here. I'll put in a little of our caramely color, maybe a little white in between here. And then I'll add some of our teal and blue on top. And then maybe I'll put a little white in between our dark. Again, I just want to get light values and dark values kind of mixed together in our rings. A little dark on top, and right there we've got our 4.5 ounces. I'm going to put just a little more of our metallic a golden bronze on the top, and I think that's pretty good. So we're going to set this aside for the moment. I'm going to move some of these paints out of the way. I'm going to pour on some white and spread this out with my palette knife just for a base coat here. You don't need a real thick base coat. Just a touch too much. So you can just take some off. You could add more if you needed to. So there we go. That looks pretty good. I'm going to give it just a very quick torch just to pop some of these air bubbles. There we go. And I'm going to switch the camera angle here so you can get a little better view of the cup. So we can pour out of either side of the cup. We could pour out of, this is the side I layered, and of course we could pour out of this side. The other side are the two I use most often. You could pour out of the middle, I guess, but I get the best results from either the side I layered or the opposite side. I think I'm going to go from the side I layered on this one, and let's go ahead and get started. So I'm just going to kind of aim towards the middle here and just pour in a nice kind of thin stream. And again, this is very thin paint. So we've got our spinner, so one thing we could do is we could just rotate our spinner and change the direction of our pour a little bit. We can turn it one way, we can turn it the other way. This will kind of alter the look of our paint puddle. I don't like to turn the spinner like just keep turning it and turning it as I'm pouring. I found you get not as interesting of a composition that way. So just small turns is kind of what I like. It looks like we got some cloudy cells forming, which is kind of cool. That's the white Dutch pour mixture. Turn it again here. Coming to the end of the cup. Turn it one last time maybe, and here we go. So the that caramel, the metallic caramel's coming out last. That was the first color we put in there. I think that looks pretty good. I'm gonna slow it down, get my hand under there, grab that drip and pull it away. And there we go. So it's looking pretty good. Interesting puddle. I'm gonna flip the camera back up here to the top view, and I'll take a look at it. Now it's, you know, very symmetrical, this, you know, beautiful circular paint puddle. Now we have a couple choices here. We could just spin this thing out, and just the way it is, it'll expand everything, and we'll get a nice kind of circular composition, and that could be very pretty. I think what I'm gonna do, which is another choice, is just expand my paint puddle by hand, and then put it back on the spinner and finish spinning it out, covering the edges and the corners with the spinner. And it'll alter the composition a bit, and it won't make it so circular, such a perfect circle, but I kind of like that. It gives it a little more organic feel. We can get some cells popping up also doing that. So I'm just carefully moving that paint, just covering more of the surface. And that looks pretty good to me. So we want to, if we do this kind of tilting by hand, kind of recenter some of that paint so it doesn't all shoot off the edge really quickly. And I quite like that. We got some very interesting details. So here we go. I'm going to stick it back on the spinner, and we're gonna just go ahead and give it a spin. See what happens. Use my little brake and slow it down. Oh, that's very interesting, pretty cool. I really like, we've got some cells developing. I like that. One thing, I think we can give it another spin and finish tilting off or getting the paint off of this corner. But before I do that, I want to see if there's anything I want to alter. And we've got a lot of cool stuff over here. This is kind of plain over here. I think I might lift it up and give it a little bit of a help. Move some of this cool stuff by hand down this way. Not a ton, just kind of changing, moving that, all the cells a little bit. I kind of like that a little bit better. It's still quite a circular looking composition, which I kind of like, but it's a little more elongated. So I think that looks pretty cool. Let's give it one more spin and see what happens. All right, so we're developing a lot of awesome cells with this particular straight pour, which I really like. We've got a little bit of paint over here, and it hasn't covered the canvas. I'm not too worried about that. We could fix that really quick, but I really like the composition. I think I'm going to leave it just like that, and we'll fill or fix this little area right here, and I'll show you what you can do there. So one thing we can do, we could just take our finger, I'm taking my turquoise, And because most of that is kind of turquoise, I'm just going to kind of lay a little bit of the turquoise on top there. Let it kind of roll over the edge. You can kind of help pull it over with your finger if you want. And you could also give it another little spin, but you're going to lose paint on all the sides. But once this dries, no one will know that you touched it up at all. And except you, I guess, but you won't tell anyone. So there we go. We've kind of covered up that little corner, and I really like it. And these cells continue to develop, which is pretty cool. So I'm gonna just lift it up, sit it on my spinner here, just like that. And wow, that's quite a cool straight pour with the thin paints. And we got a whole lot of cells. And we still have rather distinct lines, I think, or rings. So, but I like it. So let me zoom in here. And you can see some of these cool details. Okay, let's check it out. So here is kind of this top left corner. That's kind of our center of interest right in there, which I really like it. We've got some very cool, interesting effects happening. Kind of move it over to the right corner. And there's the little corner we just touched up. And I think it looks pretty good. You're never going to know when it dries. You go over to the kind of the bottom left there. And those cells, I'm a little surprised we're getting so many, but quite like it. So, and that happened to be probably part of the white I used. I used two different whites in my Dutch pour mix. One happened to be the Artist Loft Flow Acrylic White. The other one was the kind of my new favorite white, which is, I'll show it to you here, it's the Folk Art Multi-Surface Satin that you can get at Hobby Lobby, or Michael's, I mean, or Hobby Lobby probably has it too. But a combo of those two whites plus the Floetrol and just the thinness of the paint is the reason we're getting all those really cool cells. So, all right, so any questions you might have, be happy to answer any. I'm going to flip on back here. And so I'd say that was a pretty successful experiment. I'm pretty happy I tried it out. Straight pour with really thin paints. Worked out pretty well. So I'm just going to scroll up here and see if there are any questions that came in. And here we go. And sorry if it was a little fuzzy there. That's the streaming. When you're streaming live, it can get a little, connection can get a little wonky. Sorry about that. And talking about my sign. So, and oh, Carla, I guess, asked if my birthday's in September. Yes, my birthday is in September, September 18th. As a matter of fact, That's my birthday coming up. Not going to tell you how old I am. And Navala asked, did I miss your birthday? Nope, not yet. Thanks. But great to see you, Navala. Thanks for stopping by. It's been a while. So hope you're doing well. And let's see here. Let me see if I don't see any other questions. I'm going to scroll to the bottom here. And yes, September 18th is the big day. So, all right. Cool. So no other questions. But yeah, what a fun experiment. So it's continuing to kind of evolve. I'll give you another look at it maybe before we break. And let me do that. Let's see here. I'm going to, let me flip back and I'll just show you I'll zoom back out a little bit. And kind of see over. There we go. So yeah, tons of cells in that one. Very cool. So I quite like it. I don't think I've seen a straight pour with this kind of a cell effects. So pretty awesome. And oh, Carla wants to see the painting behind me. Yeah, this is let me zoom back. This is the one of the demos I did in our members only class from Wednesday, and it turned out pretty nice. Dried great. The other one dried great too. And so that's kind of a hybrid direct pour, Dutch pour, pearl pour type of a technique. But it turned out great. Pretty happy with it. So I'll be doing more of those, I think, in the future. So like that one a lot. And again, that's really thin paints that we used. So, but yeah, that was a fun one to do. All right, everyone. Well, I don't see any other questions. And Monique is asking about my age. Why not? We won't tell anyone your age. I've got to keep some mystery about me. So I'm a mysterious artist. So you got to have mysteries. So, but okay. So anyway, well, thanks so much for joining me, everyone. I hope you have a great weekend. It's cooling down a little out here in San Diego. Hopefully it's becoming a little cooler and less rainy wherever you are. So take care, have a great weekend, and I will see you soon. I'll see you next time. All right. Take care, everyone. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.